all the efforts that Fehr has been making in terms of promoting bicycling as a company and for our staff, and what it means to be having and hosting Bike Month. So for us, Bike Month is not just about bicycling to work, although that's obviously a big part of what we want to be promoting this month, but it's about really encouraging and getting our staff to be bicycling for fun, bicycling with their kids at school, getting out on bicycling on the weekends, really just encouraging bicycling all around throughout the months of May and beyond. And we have a lot of really great opportunities to continue promoting bicycling throughout 2012. We already have a lot of staff that are bicycling regularly throughout the company, and we have a lot of resources to continue to promote other people bicycling on a more regular basis as well. So why is it important for us at Fehr to be promoting bicycling? Well, this might be a pretty obvious question to be asking, or obvious answer to say, but it's such a core part of the services that we offer our clients, and it's what we do on a day-to-day basis. So making sure that we walk our talk in terms of really encouraging our staff to be driving less and walking and bicycling and taking transit more often. And then there's obviously a lot of other great reasons to promote bicycling as well, and these are ones that we often talk with our clients about or promote in the work that we do. So there's a lot of great environmental reasons to promote bicycling, and these are things that we address and quantify a lot in our work through our TDM work or climate action plan work, through all of the research that we do through the Bicycle and Pedestrian Discipline Group. Bicycling for health, so I'd say that this is probably the most selfish reason to promote bicycling among our staff, but I think that the pedometer challenge was a great testament to really understanding the value of active transportation and how important it is to stay healthy through the kinds of transportation choices that we're making. And then also, bicycling is a great way to save money. I'm not going to extol the cost of what it is to drive in terms of fuel costs and parking and maintenance, but certainly bicycling is one of the most affordable and accessible modes for everybody, and certainly a great way to get around. So what's going to be happening for Bike Month at Fehr? Well, hopefully you checked out the wiki page, but if you haven't already, take a look. We have a great bike challenge that's going to be kicking off next week, and so you'll want to get more information there on our wiki page to sign up. We've also posted some terrific staff spotlights on different staff that are bicycling throughout the company. Really fun to take a look at those. And then there's quite a number of local office efforts, and so we have ambassadors in each of the offices and your OMs plugged into offering opportunities to promote Bike Month locally through Bike to Work Day and other opportunities. So, and one of the reasons that we really wanted to step up our efforts this year was that we received the great distinction of being a gold bicycle-friendly business, which is a really high honor to have, and we're thrilled to have it. There's only one step up from there, and that's platinum, and that's something that we're going to be really pursuing. And so we did get some really positive feedback and constructive feedback, both from staff and from the League of American Bicyclists, on how we can continue to promote bicycling within the company. And that is to provide greater subsidies and incentives to our staff to bicycle more, and that's really what the focus is in for Bike Month and for continuing opportunities. And then another one that we heard quite a bit of was to provide office bikes to specific offices. And so in doing so, a couple of offices have chosen to buy bikes for their offices, and these are in places particularly where it might be difficult to actually bike to work, but you'd like to bike during the day for lunch or on a break. And Ian Moore has set up a great opportunity with Public Bikes, their local San Francisco bike company, to get a good deal on a bike. So if your office is interested in pursuing this, talk with your OM about it, and then connect with Ian Moore, and he can set you up for that deal. So with that, I want to hand it over to the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition. They are a fantastic advocacy group in San Francisco. They're a 12,000 member strong organization, and are doing really great work here to make bicycling more accessible and everyday activity for everyone here in the city. So I'm going to hand it over to Tracy Chen.
Thanks, Brooke. Hello and welcome. My name is Tracy Chen, and I'm here with Mark Caswell, who's our program manager, and together we'll be going over some really basic tips and tricks to get you biking anywhere. So, I'm just trying to move to the next slide here. Really quickly, like Brooke said, we're the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition. We're a local nonprofit that is working to promote the bicycle for everyday transportation. We want to see everyone from an 8-year-old to an 80-year-old feel comfortable and safe riding a bike across San Francisco. Our main project is connecting the city. It is our vision for San Francisco to see great bikeways connecting the city literally from end to end. And the orange lanes are part of the bike infrastructure that we've been working with great partners like Fehr and Fehr to plan out and envision what that might look like. But on a national level, bike improvements have been happening everywhere. Great cities like Chicago getting a new bike share program, Seattle, Salt Lake City, working with the city and transportation, different transportation alternatives to create better alternatives to driving. And in New York, this is an example of how the increase in the number of people biking actually correlates with more safety for cyclists and for pedestrians. And so as the number of bikes have increased, which is the blue line, the brown line there is the number of casualties, which has decreased over time. And also, in urban areas, like one of the statistics that Brooke had on her slides is that 40% of trips are 2 miles or less. And on a bike, that is a very quick, convenient trip. It's 20 minutes door to door. And in denser urban areas, about people are 1.7 times more likely to walk or bike, as we've talked about here in the San Francisco office too. So biking is great. It's getting better, safer with as more people are getting out on bikes and cycling. And if you're thinking about making more trips by bike more often, we're going to cover a few tips and tricks to make it a little bit easier and help you get started. So we'll cover choosing the right bike, how to bike with traffic, and getting to work. So when you're looking at a bike, there's a few things to think about. What kind of riding are you planning to do? Is it for work? Is it for fun? How hilly is the area? In San Francisco, we have to think about the best route to get from point A to point B without going over all of these crazy hills, and how much do you want to spend? This is an example of a great commuter bike, and there are fenders on the back tires that can keep you dry and mud-free. At the bottom there is a chain guard to keep your bent legs grease-free. And the handlebars are a swept back style, so it allows you to sit more upright. And in the front is a great rack that's perfect for a laptop bag or a purse. And again, this is just an example of a commuter bike. There's also road bikes, mountain bikes. I have a commuter bike that's more of a hybrid. It has fatter tires, and I feel a little bit more comfortable leaving it parked out on the street. So the basic necessities that you'll need to get going are a helmet, a U-lock, and lights. So these are the 3 things that you should have with you when you're heading out. The helmet will go over a little bit more in depth on how to get the proper fit. A U-lock is this metal lock here, which you should have with a cable. Cables can be easily cut. And when you're locking your bike up, make sure you get the U-lock through your bike frame and lock to something secure. And lights are required in the evening. You have to have one in the front in California. And for the back, you either need a reflector or A backlight is suggested but not required. And here are some other fun accessories to make your ride a little bit more comfortable. In the top corner are some panniers. It's great for storage. You can switch out your bike seat to something more comfortable. A bell is great for letting other bikers know, even pedestrians know that you're coming up behind them. And racks and vendors. And here's some great people who are out biking in really casual clothes. And this is just an example of the fact that you can ride your bike anywhere and wear almost anything. A skirt, a suit, and when you're dressing to ride on your bike, it's great to think about layers. You want to start your ride out a little bit chilly. You'll usually, once you start going, your body will warm up, and you can always take layers off or put layers back on. And getting into bike fit, these are 4 examples of different riding styles. Some are more upright and others are more hunched forward. The bottom left corner is more of a sporting racing style of bike. But again, depending on the fit and what type of riding you're interested in doing, there's different types available. So once you've decided on the type of bike you want, you'll want to adjust your seat to the proper height. In the picture on the left, you'll see that when your foot is on the pedal, so the ball of your foot is on the pedal, your knee should have a slight bend to it. And when your heel is on the pedal, in the picture on the right, your leg should be straight. And so you'll need to adjust your seat height appropriately to be able to have that fit. For a helmet, proper helmet fit, this young lady on the left is demonstrating the proper height that your helmet should be down on your forehead. It should be about 2 fingers above your brow. And the helmet should sit horizontally on your head. It shouldn't be tilted back, as this is illustrated here. And once you have your helmet on, you should see if you can wiggle it side to side. It shouldn't have too much give. You want it to fit pretty snugly. And last, you can adjust your chin strap so that it's comfortable and snug. And lastly, before you head out, you should do a quick ABC quick check. ABC stands for air, brakes, and chain. Check the tire pressure in your ears by squeezing it. Brake check, grab your front and rear brakes and move your bike to see if your brakes are tight. And then check your chain by just spinning your pedals and seeing if the chain moves freely. And then the quick check is if you have a quick release on your front tires, making sure that that is tightly secured. And then lastly, just pick your bike up, maybe 6 inches or a foot, and drop it. And if there's anything loose that's on your bike, it'll fall off when you do that, and then you can fix it before you head out. All right, so now we're going to get into bike safety and riding safely on the roads and going through some rules of the roads and great tips that Mark will take us through.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Caswell, Program Manager of the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition. And I do a bunch of work around bike safety education. Some of my work includes educating taxi drivers. All new taxi drivers in San Francisco are required to go through an all-day training, and 30 minutes is me talking about sharing the road with bike riders. We also talk to muni operators, our bus operators. We're doing a training around them to make sure that they understand what to do. And then we're also out there educating people who are biking or might consider biking, such as you all here, where we do a lot of different courses. Some are very long, 4 hours, and then we actually do an on-road course where we're actually out there on the road with people. And then we also teach people literally how to balance, turn, and do all of that on a bike as well, whether you're an adult or a child. We offer both of those. The great part is they're all free, and they're all funded by the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency. Our transportation agency has used the safety money for traffic safety to fund those programs with a subcontractor. In 2012, so far, as of April 1st, we've already educated 1,400 people, which is a really whopping number. It's more than any other group in San Francisco. We're out there talking to more people than anyone else about street safety. So we're really proud of all our work there. So I'm going to talk a minute about the law specifically. As you can see here, I'm mentioning California law. Obviously, we're San Francisco, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But this law is applicable to almost every state in the United States, and specifically where all of your offices are. A person who's riding a bike has all of the rights and is subject to all of the provisions applicable to the driver of a vehicle. A bike equals a vehicle. When you're operating a bike, you want to make sure you're doing so as you would a car. You don't want to go the wrong way. You don't want to, do things that are dangerous on a bike or a car. One line that we've used, both in partnership with our agencies as well as my group, is what we call Give Respect, Get Respect. It's a campaign that's saying both drivers and bike riders, let's give each other a shared respect and really make sure that we're doing that. There's another adage out there that's been around for a while called same rights, same rules. If you're on a bike, you got to make sure that if you have a right to the lane, you also are following all the same rules as a car. That said, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the specific laws in California, starting in the top left there. In California, pedestrians always have the right of way, always. That code there basically says that if you're operating a car or a bike, it is incumbent upon you to allow safe passage of someone walking wherever they are on the street, even if they're jaywalking, even if they're doing something unpredictable. It's up to you to stop and allow them to safely pass. Obviously, the next one is stopping behind the crosswalk, just as you would in a car. Just because it's a red light, don't creep into the crosswalk. A bike is the same space, basically, as a car in a crosswalk and really prevent someone who's able to go across the crosswalk, especially if they're in a wheelchair. So make sure you're leaving that crosswalk space for people who are walking. Stay on the streets. Some municipalities do allow you to ride on the sidewalk. Check your local municipalities there. In San Francisco, you're not allowed to ride on the sidewalk unless you're under the age of 13. But some laws differ depending on your state and your municipality. In California, it's up to the cities to decide. The next one is go with the flow. Always ride the same direction as traffic. Don't salmon or ride the wrong way is a term for that. Not only is no one expecting you to be there, and that's really dangerous for you, but it's also just really confusing to people. So make sure you're riding the right way. Minding the signs and lights. Obviously, stop at all stop signs behind the crosswalk. Stop at red lights and wait for them to turn green before you go, just like all other vehicles would. And light up the night. Again, check with your local laws, but most states require a front white light. Some require a back red light as well. We recommend a red light, as Tracy mentioned. There's also some other rules around reflectors on the sides, but those are also important to look at. And then the big one in California that's really important is called taking the lane, which is if you feel that it would be unsafe for you to share that travel lane with a vehicle, then you are allowed to move into the center of the lane and control that lane and communicate to other people on the road that this is where I feel safest and this is what I'm doing. I'm going to go into that a little bit more and unpack that because that is something that is confusing to a lot of people. Also, it's okay to leave the bike lane. It's something that a lot of people don't realize. Oh my God, I'm in the bike lane. And if there's a broken bottle in there, if there's a cone, if there's a slow person, a person who's operating the bike slower than you, or a car door is opening and you feel safer to be outside the bike lane, you are allowed to leave the bike lane, especially if there's a road hazard in the way there. And the last one is be a friend to disabled neighbors. A lot of times, just remember that when someone's in a bike lane or a bikeway and they're loading or unloading, not parked, but loading and unloading, just remember that they're probably there because they need to allow someone curbside access, especially if they're someone's getting up that's elderly with a cane or a wheelchair. Just be treating everybody the same way you would want to be treated. Give respect, get respect there. So the big adage, simple, is ride predictably. If you're operating your bike predictably, then people know what to expect and they're going to operate and be able to get around you in that way. The best way to be predictable is to follow the rules of the road. It's really simple. If you're going through that stop sign and then stopping at that one, that's just confusing. So really ride predictably. And then for common hazards, just to take a minute and talk about this. The door zone is a really important one. You can see on this image here that this bike rider is riding right in the middle of a sharrow. I'm assuming you all know that. When I teach taxi drivers, they always don't know that. But that's a sharrow for those of you who all don't know. It was a traffic control device, an MUTCD, that's now approved for nationwide use that says, hey, bike rider, this is where you should ride. It's about 5 feet from the parked car, saying stay out of the door zone. You don't want them to open a door and surprise you as you're bicycling along. It also communicates to drivers saying, hey, you might expect a bike rider to be here at this location. So it's really telling everybody to share the road and ride predictably. So that's a good one. Whether or not there's a share there, always imagine that you're at least 5 feet from a parked car there. And just to take a second, dooring is the third highest cause of injury in San Francisco to bike riders. The first is unsafe turns, the second is unsafe speed, which is obviously a very generic term, and the third is actually dooring. So in urban environments, it's really important that people understand to avoid the door zone. So light rails and train tracks, just take a second, cross at 90 degrees. I can tell you when I bought a bike in San Francisco on my way home from the first time I bought a bike a week after moving to the city, I fell in the train tracks myself. I didn't hurt myself too bad, but it was definitely a bit embarrassing. I learned my lesson. So if there are train tracks or rail tracks, make sure you're really crossing those at a 90-degree angle. Sewer covers, especially if it's raining, if it's icy, those get really, really slippery. So avoid those and pay attention to that when you're riding as well. And potholes. If you see potholes, swerve around it. Obviously, you end up damaging your wheel and putting some bumps in there, which is always pretty bad. And of course, in many cities, you can report your potholes by calling 311. In San Francisco, they will come out and fix it within 48 hours. So I'm going to take a second and talk about taking the lane. They're supposed to do it in 48 hours. They have a goal of 48 hours, and most of the potholes they do fill in 48 hours.
There are a lot of shock looks in the room.
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah, we're working on improving that as well. So taking the lane, as you can see here in this photo, this bike rider is literally in the middle of this traffic lane right here. If that car on the right over there were to open their door, this bike rider would be where they need to be. They wouldn't have to swerve out of their way into car traffic that might be behind them, which would be very unpredictable for everybody, or they might get hit by the door. And you can see this, the driver on the left here in the Subaru is crossing over a dashed yellow line, totally legal, giving the bike rider more than 3 feet, a lot of room there. As I tell the taxi drivers here, this is what I want to see all the time. So you as the person who's operating the bike, make sure you're riding out a few feet from the parked cars, at least 3, if not 5. You know, door zones are growing, bigger cars, SUVs, Priuses, they all have really, really long doors. So, you know, some of the smaller hatchbacks are a little less, but 3 to 5 feet is always good. Same with the door zone. Even in a bike lane, a standard bike lane like this, you can see over there on the right side, the guy in the front there is actually the mayor of San Francisco, Ed Lee. Right after I took this photo, I pulled up text and I said, hey, Ed, you got to move over to the other side, because if that truck opened that door, he would be obviously pretty surprised there. You want to ride instead where the woman on the left here, who's a very smart and brilliant woman, my boss, is riding in the proper location on the left side of the bike lane. For those of you that are traffic engineers, just to put in there in traffic design, the white line on the inside of the bike lane is something that I think is moving away. They're not putting that on as much because a lot of people hug that right line. So sometimes some of the new designs are saying don't put the line on the right side, but just the one on the left there, and add the little T marks for the parking instead, which I think really communicates to people, hey, don't ride all the way on the right there. Ride out on that left side there. So that's the main aspect of bicycling from a safety standpoint. And then just a minute about talking about choosing your route. That's one of the big questions of I don't know how to get to work. First and foremost, ask your neighbor or coworker. I think you all here have individuals who are already promoting bicycling like Brooke and other people. And if you have a question about how to get from your house to the office, it's good to just kind of ask them. We're working on a program that would be a bicycle ambassador program where you might be in an office with 200 people and you could put a little bike flag on your cubicle that says, hey, you want to know more about biking? Come talk to me. And you can say, oh, yeah, I really hate riding on that street. So, oh, if you just go 1 block over, it's a lovely, quiet ride. So asking a neighbor is great. There's also local bike maps in many cities. Either you can get this from the bicycle advocacy group or from your local bike shop. Look around for those. And then Google Maps has bicycle routes for all of the nation that operates really, really well. There's sometimes a little bit of turns in there, but use that as a really great guide for figuring out where paths are and where bike lanes are. And then, of course, recreational riding groups. If you're interested in going on more sporty exercise rides and want to learn about some of those routes, there's always groups out there. You can easily find those, especially using the League of American Bicyclists website, which is bikeleague.org, can give you a lot of those recreational groups if that's what you're interested in. And then Bike to Work Day commuter convoys. San Francisco, we have, I think we're up to 14 commuter convoys this year. that will be traveling from different parts of the city, all heading towards City Hall for a main press conference, which is downtown. And they all meet there and ride together. So if it's your first day riding, Bike to Work is a really great opportunity to meet with those people and ride in a group, which makes you feel a lot safer. We also have one that actually rides all the way from San Francisco down to Mountain View, where Google is headquarters. It's like a 45-mile ride. No one's left behind. They will be there with everybody the whole way. And you can also give up and get on the train if you don't feel like riding all that distance. So there's some super commuters as well as some smaller commutes as well. So do look at your Bike to Work day and what your city's hosting there. Another great one, some of the tips that may not have been covered here is a feed that we're starting. It's called Bike Buddy. If you use Twitter, the hashtag is Bike Buddy. And you go to sfbike.org/bikebuddy if you don't use Twitter, and it'll link you to the conversation here. So you can see on the right, we're mentioning some of our classes. The next one there, Christopher Kidd, I think works for a different planning agency, a different planning firm than Fehr & Fehr's, is posting his favorite things, and other people are recommending their favorite tips. Personally, my favorite tip that a lot of people don't think of, I have to sometimes carry my bike upstairs when I'm going home. And one thing you always want to do is carry your bike on your right shoulder. You have your gears on your right side of your bike, so you don't want to get gears on your waist or on your pants and you get grease on there. So whenever you pick up your bike, always carry it from the right shoulder. One of the simple things that no one ever tells you that you just kind of pick up maybe, or maybe not, and then you go to the dry cleaner. So that's my favorite tip. Tracy, do you have a favorite tip that you want to say about Bike Buddy?
When I'm biking in a skirt, I will tie it into a little knot at the bottom, and that keeps it from getting caught in my chain or my bike tires.
And so if you have your own, feel free to use Twitter and share yours as well, or we'll probably retweet it if it's a good one. So that's the big conversation there about other tips and tricks. I would take a minute to talk about biking to work and give you some ideas. In San Francisco, we're going to have a couple locations that will have valet bike parking throughout the area. The closest one to the Fehr & Fehr's office in San Francisco will be at the Ferry building. If you don't have room to park your bike inside the office here, you can bring it down there and we'll watch it for you all day free of charge. Also, if you're not sure if your building does or doesn't provide a bike room, check in with your office manager to ask the building owner what to do with a bike on that day. Is there a bike room where you can store your bike there? Do you need access just that one day or year-round? Some buildings have them. And then just to talk a second and brag about some great work in San Francisco, there's a new law that was recently passed that actually says that if the employer of Fehr & Fehr, say, wants to allow their employees to bring their bikes into their office and store them in their cubicle or in the corner of the office or in a storage room or something like that, then the building owner will be required to allow you to bring your bike inside the building and store it wherever it's safe to do so. Obviously, you can't lean it against a fire exit or store it somewhere that's in the stairways. But if you have space, you as the employer can say, oh, I've got this room that I want my employees to lean their bike up in. Then they'll legally be allowed to do that if the building doesn't provide a bike room for them. That's something that I know some of you down in Southern California, I know LA, I think last week introduced something to start funding that, looking at that from LA County. And I know a few other cities are also looking into this and saying, wow, how'd you guys do that? So we worked really closely with the Building Owners and Managers Association on that, which was a really great ally to have. And then just to take a quick second to talk about Green Lane Project, which some of you may have heard about. It's funded by the Bikes Belong Grant Foundation, which provides grants to different bicycle advocacy groups. And with this new project, the Green Lane Project, they're actually funding work both with bicycle advocacy groups and with city agencies. They chose a few cities, Austin, Texas, Chicago, Memphis, Portland, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. Are the programs that they chose because of the strong relationship with the advocacy group and the Transportation Authority to really say, okay, what can we do to really kickstart this and get really great projects on the ground there? So some of those cities you'll probably be seeing RFPs for designing some really great bikeways, and I hope you all will help make sure they do design really great bikeways in those cities. So do keep an ear out for that in the next couple months. They just announced that. So that's it for us. I want to thank you. You can go to sfbike.org for information specifically around most of what we shared here, as well as any local bike advocacy group that you may have to get you rolling out there. Tracy, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's about it.
Fantastic. Tracy and Mark, that was really great, and I learned a lot, even though I ride my bike every day. Want to remind everybody who's watching right now that if you have not yet signed in, please do so. The purpose of that is just as a reminder that for offices that do decide to get office bikes, if you're visiting in that office or you work in that office and you'd like to use a bike, you need to make sure that you have demonstrated that you've watched today's webinar. So we've also recorded it so that if any staff have missed it or future staff that join us will be able to watch it and will also be able to take advantage of the great opportunity to use our office bikes. And so with that, I want to turn it over. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute your phone and pipe up, or if you'd like to type something into the box, we'd be happy to field any specific questions you have, either about bike skills, bike maintenance, anything else having to do with Bike Month. We'd be happy to answer those questions now.
Really quick question. History, why are they called sheriffs when you're chevron?
It's a shared arrow is the term that I've heard. I don't know more than that. Do you, Brooke?
Yeah, no, I don't actually know the genesis of besides shared arrow. Yeah.
And those were invented in the 90s in San Francisco, I believe.
Great. So we have a question from Corey. Any chance we could say a little bit more about the bike purchase connection? I don't think that Ian is on the line right now. So I'll just briefly say that, please go ahead and email him. I think that the discount is pretty substantial and is more substantial depending on the number of bikes that we buy. So definitely encourage us to get more bikes. Yeah, it's somewhere around 25%. And the public bikes are really affordable. They're great city bikes and commuter bikes. They come in, I think, between 1 and 9 speeds, and they're really lovely looking bikes as well, fun to ride.
I have another question. So when you're, as a pedestrian or a driver or a transit rider, there's nothing more annoying than watching a bicycle kind of walk through the stop sign and, with no regard for, when there's traffic there. Same time as a bicyclist, there's nothing more annoying than following the rules of the road and having to stop at a stop sign where there's, there's no cars there. So if you're a responsible bicyclist, having to stop at every stop sign, which is pretty much everywhere in San Francisco, you're having to exert a lot more energy than you would. Has there ever been a movement to make it more of like a yield type thing? I mean, just to make it a little more kind of rational and a little more in line with what people are actually doing to prevent them from, causing, accidents at the same time, to not put undue burden on having to stop every single block.
So just to repeat the question in case you all couldn't hear, the question was around, it's nothing worse than seeing someone who's endangering other people, whether they're biking or walking or driving by a bike rider, say, running through a stop sign. But at the same time, it's just as frustrating when you're at a stop sign and there's nobody around you, and whether or not you stop all the way and get down and get back up and ride. There has been no movement in San Francisco for that, real active movement. In Idaho, the law is that bicycle riders can treat a stop sign as a yield sign and a stoplight as a stop sign. And that way, if there's someone in the intersection, then you have to obviously stop and allow them the right of way. And that's the only state in the nation that does that. Paris is actually doing an interesting experiment similar to that downtown right now, which is kind of just like that, and there's only at some intersections. It's going to be interesting. I'm really interested to see how that works. We know in San Francisco that we encourage everybody to follow all of the laws and do that and make sure you are stopping at stop signs and stoplights. We do know that San Francisco Police Department is interested in prioritizing the most dangerous behaviors, which would be locations where there are people who are walking, crossing, whether you're biking or driving, that if you are endangering someone else, then you will get a ticket. And we have an understanding from some of the SFPD that going after simple tickets where you might be in an empty intersection and roll through, you probably won't get a ticket. That said, you should still stop. You might get a warning. That does happen sometimes. So, but there's no official movement to change that. You would have to change that at the state level for the law.
I also want to mention that as Fehr and Fehr staff, if you are riding around, you are ambassadors for great bicycling behavior, and it's really, I always think about that when I'm on my bike in San Francisco. My clients are all over the place, and so making sure that you are really walking the talk and showing other bicyclists how to behave respectfully and safely as well is really important. So, Okay, so we have another question. Can you talk more about bicycling on multi-lane one-way streets, such as south of Market? So south of Market in San Francisco is a really large gridded street network, and several of the streets are up to 6 lanes wide and have traffic going at about 40 to 50 miles an hour on some of them. And I know that certainly in other offices that we have, there's a lot of large arterials around their offices or homes to contend with, so it'd be great to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So to speak a little bit on the one-way street, California law, you are allowed to ride on either the right or the left on a one-way street, whichever one is better for you. So that is something to just consider there. It doesn't necessarily mean always on the right. So there's an exception on that. I personally, I hate riding in Soma. It's scary. As a confident bike rider, I still get nervous when I'm on high-speed streets like that, and especially when they're wide lanes. You can take the lane. That's the best way and safest way to ride. And do remember that the door zone is really a high danger area, because not only is someone maybe in the right lane not seeing you as well because you're so over to the side there, but also they may try and share the lane with you and squeeze you or be too close with you. So it's really important to really control the lane and be in the middle there when you can. And that said, I understand it's very scary and someone might honk at you and tell you to get out of the way. You are legally in the right there, but obviously that only matters as much as you feel comfortable. The courses that we offer do go a lot more into this, especially the on-road course that we offer. And cities throughout the nation also offer similar classes where they actually take you out on the road and they take you on some of the worst streets. And they have you on there with an instructor who gives you critiques on how to really improve that. And we hear from people all the time that they've really stepped up their confidence, especially on those really, really scary streets like that.
It would be great if you could talk about a couple of strategies for how to make left turns on big, large, busy streets, because I find that that's one of the hardest things for, regardless of how skilled you are, and particularly on Market Street coming into work where left turns are not legal. So not to give that as an example, but, just what's a comfortable or safe way to make the left turn?
Yeah, we had some trouble getting here, too, making that left turn. So there's basically 3 different ways to make a left turn in the United States. One is to act as a car, signal with your hand, merge left, merge into the turn lane, and turn left just as you would a car. And that's called a vehicular left turn. Another one is what I would call a pedestrian turn, which would be you pull up to the light, you hop off your bike, you walk across the crosswalk, and then turn your bike and wait for the light to turn green and get on and ride then. Because it's illegal to ride your bike in a crosswalk and dangerous. The third is called a box turn or a Dutch left turn, because this is really how they do it in a lot of countries over there, especially in the Netherlands, where you would go through the intersection, and then once you get to the corner, remaining on the outside of the crosswalk, so you're still on the intersection side there, stop your bike and turn your bike 90 degrees, and then cross that way. If you want to look at that, I've actually Googled around, and there's actually not really that great of an image on the internet, but box turn is the term for it. But the images on there are actually really not that great. I actually have on my to-do list to make a new one in the next week or 2. But you can always kind of make what is a full 90-degree L-shaped turn to an intersection if you don't feel confident going lane to lane to lane.
Terrific. Great. Any other questions? Nope. Okay, well, with that, please check out the wiki for Bike Month. We're really excited to get everybody involved with the Bike Challenge, and certainly Bike to Work Day is coming up in San Francisco. I know that the days are different depending on where you are, but check in with your local advocacy group to find out how to get involved and engage for Bike Month. And if you have any questions about how to get involved or following up on this, please feel free to contact any member of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Discipline Group or your OM, and we also have ambassadors in each of the offices helping to coordinate all these efforts. Or please also contact the San Francisco Bike Coalition too, and they'd be happy to provide information as well. So thank you all, and have a Bike Month.